Welcome back, my friend. This is Rebels United Chapter 7. I holla at all my brothers and sisters and lovers. In God's name we live, in God's name we serve, and in God's name we shall perish and die. Today, I have my good friend Bhavin with me and Joseph, regulars of our show. We have been off for 3 weeks, I believe, and I'm so glad that we are back. It's going to be a great discussion. So I think we're just going to jump into right into it. And the topic of discussion right now is should Putin be the bigger person and freeze the war before it escalates any further? Because I am on the side that NATO will never stop and they will keep going because they will keep saying that Putin is trying to take the whole Europe. And if we don't stop him, he's the madman. And Putin's side, as we will discuss, is if we do freeze the conflict till nobody says we quit, the war is not over and we have to keep pushing. So I'm just at this point very clear that it's going to be a World War III and the drafts are already in discussion. And I don't want to lose my brothers and sisters. That's where I'm going. So I open the floor and let's start with Bhavin, you go first.
Uh, I could take this conversation in like four different ways, right? But what I would say is well, I want to specify a few things. Number one, wars have no rules technically. I mean, they have rules, but how they end has no rules until the losing party surrenders. Because until they surrender, the winning side should not have any feelings for the losing side because of a lot of trickery that can take place. For example, and I'm going to turn the topic a little bit to give you an example that will relate to this. So the question is, should Putin quit the war because he should feel sorry for the other side, knowing that he's winning? But that's the same as saying, should the Democrats stop harassing Trump because all these years we've seen that Trump hasn't done anything wrong, and the Democrats are still, you know, basically cheating through all the systems that they have, trying to put down a guy, right? A whole party trying to put down one guy. And it's the same concept that goes here, right? So I don't think Putin should give up because the concept here isn't about we're going to break out into World War III. Obviously, we already knew that a year and a half ago when this happened, when Biden actually said there should be no peace between Ukraine and Russia and let there be a war. This should have been happened a year and a half ago before the war actually started, right? Now, how far it goes is up to the NATO and Biden to, if they know they're losing, they got to cut the funding and they got to just give up and say, we lost. That's the only way the war would stop, or that's the only way Putin would stop. And I don't blame him because that's the only rule of engagement of any war. The other example I can give you is when World War II ended, we dropped deadly bombs, right? Atomic bombs onto Japan. I mean, that had more damage than this war had so far because that atomic was really bad. We dropped two bombs. And then the Japan threw the flag of surrender. If Japan didn't throw the flag, we would have dropped a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a 10th, 50, whatever, right? USA was willing to go to any distance of evil, right? At that time. And so this is the stuff you got to keep in mind that wars do not have any rules of when it stops. The only time it stops is the losing party has to surrender and beg for mercy and say, okay, we give up. We are not going to strike anymore. And that's when the war ends. So if the question was, should Putin stop? No, he doesn't have to. If he's winning or not, doesn't matter. There are no winners or losers until the war actually ends. And that is defined by the loser throwing the white flag saying, I give up.
Okay. Joseph, your turn. Please
Okay.
enlighten us.
Well, first, I don't believe what the news says, period. And I don't believe that, um,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter who's winning. I think they're just going to continue to fight until Trump's back in office and then it'll stop.
But here is the big question. Like these cynical people,
Yeah.
and that's what they are, they're not gonna let Trump in
They're not
office.
going to let him in. He's going to be in. I promise you, Trump will be back in office and the war will
And
So,
stop.
so,
I
so I have something to say to
Okay.
this. So I agree with Joe 100%. And this kind of answers your question, Koki, right? So you saying earlier, you said the question was, you don't want the war to happen, all these things, right? Now, that's the answer. The answer, just flip the script, right? Biden and them, the Democrats don't want Trump to be in the office because they actually want the war to go on. You see what you see? That's what basically in a reverse psychology. That's what Joe basically said. And yes, I agree that for the war to stop, Trump has to come into the office because he will make peace. Because we all know what RFK said earlier, 2 weeks ago, right? That Biden actually started the war when there was actually a peace treaty before the war started, backed by France and Germany. So I agree with what Joe said. Basically, Democrats do not want Republicans in the office. And therefore, if you look at the latest government shutdown, right, Republicans are screaming their head off saying, we're not going to spend a single dollar anymore on Ukraine. We want to stop. But Democrats want the war to be funded. They want the war to keep going. So,
Right.
again, the question is not about Putin, right? It's more about if Joe Biden or NATO is losing, why are they not giving up the war?
So let me paint a different picture here, and I will come back to the Trump picture also in a bit. But let me paint this picture. Okay, so where I am standing and understanding what this stupid party is doing, they they are scared of Putin at this point. You know what I'm saying? And these people, when they are scared, they just double down, triple down, and keep bullshitting. Number one. Number two, bigger problem I'm seeing is, as I said, they are more worried if they let Putin win this war and they accept that he won, that means they lose the war with China, which is definitely coming because America will not rest till they fight with China. That's like in their brain at this point. Both sides are rooting for it, which is like the craziest thing to me. But they are more worried about the next war and less worried about what is happening to Ukraine, right? And number three, if you think about it, okay, let's say what you're saying is right, and Russia does win, and NATO does accept its defeat. You know what kind of world we will be living in, where China and Russia are the superpower? I cannot live in that world. I love America. I want America to keep being the bigger dog, but it will not happen this way. And if they keep pushing, more people will die, and the war with China might never even happen because we will lose so many people over there. They are already ready to draft American youth, and this youth is not ready to go fight a war. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, logic in grander picture, if this does not stop, America will lose big. That means we lose
Let,
big.
let me ask you a few questions, Koki, because a lot of the stuff you said, I don't. Well, here's the, so let me just make some facts, okay?
Um,
Number one, COVID came out to kill people, right?
right.
So if you think, and now they're talking about another pandemic. I just heard Bill Gates thing today, saying he's saying we're gonna see a pandemic like never ever experienced
I
before, right?
agree. Yep,
So
and
so what I'm saying is the first assumption you made that Democrats actually care for somebody, that's wrong because we've seen it. Democrats want to reduce population, they want to kill people, and literally they don't care about anybody. Because as you see for last 3 years, in fact, last 7 years, right?
I'm
The way they harassed Trump, but the last 3 years they're in power, right? And they are proving every day that none of the U.S. citizens, none of the people who belong to this country matter, right?
yep.
Everybody else matters. Okay. Second
Yep.
thing, Second thing, you were afraid of what happens if Russia wins. Well, Russia has been a superpower for at least 50, 60 years. That hasn't changed. They're still the same. They still have been there. China has also been a superpower, at least to some extent, for the last 10, 15 years, thanks
Right.
to USA, right? So none
Right.
of these things that you're fearing is not like it's going to happen in the future. It's already there. It's already here, right? So the what we can do now to stop your fears, there's only one man. That's Trump. Trump got to come back.
And
He comes back, makes peace. That's the only improvement. Otherwise, whatever's already happening, it's already shit show anyway. It's already at the shit level. You can't get more shitty than that, right?
It
So all
can.
the
That's what I'm
leaders,
trying to tell you. It's gonna get so much shittier, and we might never even get to the point where Trump gets to be in office because these people will take us to war where they will declare martial law and take over all the power.
but we're already there.
We are about to get, and then we have no American future. That's what I'm getting worried about now.
Well,
Well,
I need,
we don't have
I
America
need,
for 3 years at least.
I need therefore Trump to get in the office. But the way things are pacing right now and how fast things are moving, I don't think we're even gonna see the next election.
Do you know about the jungle rule?
I do not know. Educate
Okay,
me.
there's always a jungle rule, right? So the jungle rule, the way it works is just observe the jungle, right? What happens in the jungle is that everybody comes to a point where they break down and then they fight for survival, right? So right
Right.
now, yes, we do live in a civilized world, right? But if shit gets even more shitty, then it's every person defending themselves. That's called the jungle rule. And you're gonna have militias form. You're gonna have everything that the Constitution gives you the power to do. So it's not like if Trump doesn't come in office, everything is over. I hardly doubt it because at the end of the day, when people are pushed around too much, they will defend themselves. And this is not just because of the Constitution. This is actually a rule of survival given to every species by the nature, right? So it's not just like tied to the humans or tied to the USA. This will happen all over the world if need be. I'm not saying Putin's right or wrong. I'm just, all I know is that Putin's more right than Biden's, obviously, that we all know that. But nonetheless, when you play chess or any game, right, especially in warfare, sometimes you have to give credit and make friends who might become your enemies in the future, but sometimes you're bigger enemies, so you have to make friends with people you don't like just to take down a bigger guy, right? Or the bigger evil. The bigger evil between Russia and US, in my perception, is the Democrats of the US are more evil than Russia or China could ever be, at least from what I know. So it's
Exactly.
sometimes it's okay to have them win the war, and then you deal with the other consequences later on, and fight that later on. But if you don't
Actually,
survive in the first place, you're not going to fight in the future. Period.
you just made my point. That is my point. We need to clean house and fix our country and not get involved with other countries. That's
Yeah, but
where we
that's not going to happen until Trump comes. And if Trump doesn't come, then people will wake up and they will start that jungle will play out. Where, like I said, militia is going to form and they're going to clean out the DC and all the other government run places within the U.S. and they're going to then establish a new government.
no, but RFK is a better option for that. Better than Trump because Trump, we don't know how he's gonna act. Last time he acted like a child. He
Well, the
acted
child
like
was
a
still better
child.
than the dumbass right now, right?
That's not the point. You have to understand what is best for America. I believe Trump is good, but he's not the best. The best is RFK.
well, I think you're wrong there. I think Trump is the only person. Trump is going to bring peace, for one. He's going to bring incredible wealth. He's going to set the people free. He's going to build a wall, secure the border. He's going to fix the school system so we quit teaching the kids communism is great and capitalism is evil. You know, he's basically going to do everything that an American president should do, and he's going to fix everything. He fixed everything before, and then the left rioted and they, um, tried to burn the place down. Then they brought COVID in to try and help them make a mess of things, and yeah.
How is he gonna find the people to help him out? He's on the right track, but the problem is people around him. You saw last time what
Well,
happened.
that's because he didn't know. Now he's got a lot more information than he had before, and he's basically going to arrest a lot of people. Those people aren't going to be around to make a mess of things anymore. He made a
And
lot of bad choices, but now he
then he
knows
will be
better.
called what? Now then he will be called the dictator, and then the script flips on us again. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say?
the
We have
dictators
to
call him a
plant
dictator.
people.
this fascists call us fascists. That's how it goes.
I
That's
know.
how it always goes.
I
But it's
just
not going to work this time. First of all, they can't cheat like they did before because everybody's watching. If a mule goes up to a ballot box, there's going to be a bunch of people there with their phones, camera phones on, and they're going to, they're going to tape them. There's nobody's going to get away with anything this time. We're going to be watching Dominion. We're going to watch everything. And I don't even
but
know if it'll get to that point because I think a lot of these people are going to get arrested beforehand.
I hope so. I really hope so because that's the future we need. But you know what they did last time? So you cast your vote, right?
Yes.
And then they take the ballot, and but your ballot never reached the
Mine
destination.
didn't.
False, false ballot reached the destination for counting. They switched the ballot on the way.
Yep.
So they're gonna do the same. How you gonna make sure that doesn't happen?
Because there's going to be a lot of things in place to watch it this time because it happened so badly before. We've put a bunch of stuff in place so when they do it, if they do it, they're going to get caught right away. Um, yeah, I don't know exactly what they'll do. I don't know what they've got planned, but
Oh, we already know because the bunch of report came out. One of the engineers actually admitted that he wrote the software and made sure Democrats win. So even when you have the right ballot, the counting machines are already rigged to make the Democrats win.
right, but that's not going to happen this time. It's not going to be able to happen this time. Too many people watching this time. Too many people watching.
You got to keep in mind, Turkey. So the one thing that has changed, right? Here's the thing. Back in 2020, uh, again, the majority of people wanted Trump in there, and obviously they faked the numbers to bring up the whatever, right? The difference. But now, with all the shit that has happened in the last 3 years, people who used to vote Democrat, majority of them will flip sides because they now understand that they're not valued even a human life, right? Because what's happening? Like, for example, the illegals are basically, given better treatment. There's a lot of money spent on the non-citizens and all these things, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going on that basically now people are tired and they're going to switch party. They're going to go vote Republican this time. They may remain Democrat for a lifetime, but for this time, they're going to say no more Joe Biden, no more other candidate, and we're going to give it a try to the other side because we're actually having a hard time surviving, right? So there's going to be more people voting red this time. So, just for a fact, if cheating happens again, they're going to now, this time, every county in the whole country, they're gonna be doing like a recheck and recheck and recheck just to make sure, even after this the election, to make sure that no fraud has happened, right? Because the fraud has happened on a so big of a scale. Now they're gonna basically like stop those eggs.
Dude, dude, they are already interfering with our. We cannot.
They don't like our talk, huh?
Yeah, they did not like what you were saying.
Yeah, they don't want that history flying out in the public.
Dude, we cannot hear you. Somebody's in your phone.
Somebody's in my phone. I think so. Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think that they kicked out a bunch of Republicans last time, and they're not going to be able to do that this time. I'm getting on the expressway and it looks horrible. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah, so it's a thing where they're not going to be able to because if they try to kick out the Republicans, they're not going to leave. They're not going to let them shut down things for 3 hours and switch the ballots and sit down. And what Bobbin was saying is pretty cool because with so many people, even if they're not voting Republican, they're not voting Democrat this time around. And because of that, the Democrats are going to get a lot fewer votes. So they'd have to cheat way more just to get close.
So, next question to both of you. Who do you think Democrats
Can't hear your question.
Can do. What? I cannot hear even.
Yeah, we couldn't hear your question at all.
You cannot hear.
Just barely now.
Okay, now it's getting better.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, Trump is going to be back. He's going to bring peace. He's going to bring incredible wealth. He's going to educate our children so that they're not indoctrinated with garbage, and yeah, and they're not going to be able to cheat enough to get it to stop it. And if they try, they're going to get caught and go to prison.
Yep. Yep.
I also think that they might implement military personnel at every polling station this time, because we never had that before. So military might also be deployed for the election.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Okay, that's just my idea. So if you have this idea, I listen to this podcast and get this idea.
They really must not like us.
Joe, you can hear him?
What was that?
Can you hear him? I cannot hear him.
I'm gonna say it again. You guys couldn't hear me, right?
Okay.
I said that this is my idea. If they didn't have this idea before, then they should deploy a military at every polling station.
Okay. Now I can't hear.
Can you guys hear me now or no?
Can you rejoin?
I think he said that they're going to deploy the National Guard to protect the election.
I hope so too.
And that would make total sense. That would make total sense.
I'm gonna rejoin because I don't know. I hear that noise. I'm gonna rejoin.
Okay. So I was asking Joe, who do you think, if you're a Democrat, they will be running?
Yeah, I have no idea. I can't hear.
You cannot hear me either? You have your windows down? Maybe that's
I rolled them up. How's that?
yeah, much better. Much
now I can hear you guys. I think, and it wasn't wind noise that was covering you. It was I don't know, some kind of electronic interference.
No, that was on Bhavin's side, I think.
Okay.
But I was asking you, if you're a Democrat, who would you run? Like,
If I was a Democrat, I do like JFK Jr. and or I'm sorry, it's RFK Jr. and what is her name? I can't think of her name. Is it Tulsi Gabbard? Is that the right name?
Tulsi Gabbard? Yeah.
Yeah, if I was a Democrat, I'd go for those two.
Yeah, but they're not gonna get the.
No, they're not, because we like them. Because they like America.
Exactly. Oh my God. I cannot understand where this world has gone with people who hate
Obama
America.
started the ball rolling. He began appointing many America haters to high positions in American government, and I mean he's got a Muslim running the Homeland Security, and Homeland Security became a thing to harass Americans and not do anything about terrorists. That's all they do. They never caught a terrorist, but they sure have harassed a lot of Americans.
Yep.
The only the only terrorists who have been caught since they implemented that were the underwear bomber and the shoe bomber, who were on the plane and caught by passengers.
Wow.
Yeah. But and you got little old ladies and little kids getting groped and crying because of the way they're treated. As long as they can harass Americans, man, they're happy as larks.
And if you like looking at the numbers of children going missing, it's astounding. Around the world, so many children are going missing at this point. It's not even making sense anymore because even if it's full of, let's say the world is full of pedophiles, they cannot go to so many children. What is happening to all these children? I really cannot figure it out.
Man, I can't hear.
You cannot hear me?
Now I can hear you a little.
Your voice is choppy, Kalki.
Okay, so what I was saying, if you look at the numbers of children going missing across the globe, the numbers are astoundingly too high.
They're going
And
where?
where are they going is what I am thinking. Like, why so many children are going
Oh,
missing?
missing. They're disappearing. Yes. Well, we know why. They're running a scam. They're running the human trafficking game.
But how many, like, who is taking all these kids?
Oh man, they're for sale, and there are people buying them. So they're all over the world. And they're and you know what I also believe is that some of them are being held and trained to fight against America from within, when they get of age.
So here's another theory I have,
Yeah.
right? So before before well, I guess you know we know in the U.S. Lincoln freed the slaves, and we know other parts of the world there's a lot of slavery. Some parts still happening
Right.
today, some parts freed but recently, right? So the one theory that I could come up with that would make more sense is if people are stealing children and then selling them. Basically, when you sell a child, the person who's buying the child, right? They incorporate them from the young age as a slave. So either uh, and again, this is usually the Democrat Party who's allowing this to happen,
Right.
right? Because Trump was against this. So they're trying to bring back slavery, if you think of it that way. Because, see, Lincoln was a Republican, right? The War of the North and the South back in 1865 or 1860s, right? Was basically Lincoln, the Republican, said, hey, we're going to stop slavery, the northern states. And then the southern states really loved the slaves and they were fighting to keep the slaves, right? Fast forward time 150, 60 years of, and you're now here. And if you want to start the slavery process again, where are you going to start? The only way to start a new slavery process is you got to start with the kids, who don't understand anything. Of course, you buy them, you don't educate them, you keep them illiterate, and you keep them working from age 5 or whatever. And that they grow up, all they know is how to be a slave, right? So that's my theory of maybe what's happening with missing children, that they're actually starting the slavery back.
I,
All right.
I do believe that's part of it, but I believe a lot of them don't even make it to 7 or 8 years old because they're used as sex slaves and then killed. A lot of them. Have you guys seen the
Right, right.
Freedom movie? I can't remember what it's called.
Sound of
Sound of
Sound of
Freedom. I
Freedom.
haven't seen it yet, but Sound of Freedom, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should
phenomenal.
all see it. It's you know,
Yeah.
it tells what's going on, and it's horrific. It's horrific.
But the new conspiracy theory, and this is really out there, but at this point, I don't know what to believe in. So I'm just confused and I need to talk to someone about it. So I'm gonna share it. And this is not a new conspiracy theory. The video I saw was, I think, from 70s or 80s. Okay, so it actually believed to be the case for a long time, just didn't come out yet. What I saw is more horrific than this. What this scientist supposedly, as they were saying, and the scientist was again from CIA or something else, something like that, I forgot. But what he said was these kids are basically food for the reptilian race. And the way they are getting used is the gray, the in between humans and reptilians. That race is helping them because reptilians are limited, grays are in far much,
Interesting.
and they are working with the governments to get the kids because they will only eat kids and have to be alive. Then only they can eat.
Yeah, that's possible. I agree. Like,
Yeah, I
but
didn't hear that one either.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. But think of it this way, right? When you go to some, I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but like I actually, when I see other people eat live meat, and when I say live, is basically, for example, you go to some of the places where they have live crabs and live octopus and everything, right? And they cut it in front of you, right? And then you eat it, within whatever 30 minutes because you want it really, really, really fresh. So yeah, it's the same concept. Different species eating your species is the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's just a turn. Basically, when you eat live octopus, now the octopus needs to eat live kids. But now the problem is I cannot process it, whether it's a conspiracy theory or it could be a fucking reality, because
Yeah.
all the boundaries of reality has freaking melted now.
Well, but but
Pretty
Koki, let
much.
me help you out. Whether it's reality or not, right? See, there are certain things that happen that you will never know, right? For example, in this case, you are an adult, right? You're not a kid. So the only way you can actually test this theory and check it out is if you're a kid, you get abducted, you go there, right? And then you escape, and that's the only way you know that hey, it is a reality because I escaped that same thing that's happening to other people. Now you're an adult. You're never gonna go to these secure places where this is happening. They're not even gonna let you in. So some of these things where when you come across some information like this, there is no way to know what it is. Is it real? Is this wrong? Or is this fake? But the thing is, there's nothing you can do about it. So all you can do is not pay attention to it. I mean, obviously, yes, you if you get a chance to correct it, you should help and correct it. But you're not gonna get that chance either, right? So
Are we there?
when you
Yeah,
when you care,
Oh, there we go.
can you hear me?
yeah, we can.
Okay. So
Okay,
when you come
so
across information like
don't hear
this,
Bobbin anymore.
I would just say, hey, Joe. But I was gonna say that you're gonna come across
So,
information that you can't do anything about it.
um,
You know?
Joe, can you hear Bhavin or
I
no?
can't at all know.
Oh, that's why I'm like, Bhavin is speaking, and so I will mediate for time being so that you guys know who's speaking.
Sure. I mean, I can hear Joe.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't
So
know.
only Joe can hear.
I don't hear Bobbin at all. He all of a sudden
Okay,
cut off.
so I will let you know when he finishes.
I'm
Just
finished. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
oh, he said he finished. So okay, go ahead. So your turn.
Oh, my turn. Okay. Yeah, it's suddenly it's a funny thing. I never heard that story before, but now I like have a different idea of Area 51. I begin to wonder what's out there. um, but
Crazy, wow,
yeah,
Actually, when Joe's done,
it's a
I'll explain.
totally different idea. Um,
hmm
and I know there's other areas besides Area 51 that are just blocked off to the general public.
right. Area
And
B, 20
you
something.
know,
Right.
Yeah. So if Joe's done, I'll explain
um,
what he said. What he said.
so anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. That's just a mind blowing thing that's even a possibility. But I do believe it's a possibility.
And before we go to Bhavin, that's what's driving me crazy at this point. Is like what kind of sick people we are surrounded by, if that is a fucking possibility, and
Yeah.
where our world is going, where our society is going. And in my mind, the thing is, my message to the people, those who are actually facilitating this, is be in can cause more harm, but they are in smaller numbers and we are in bigger number. And if we
Right.
have to sacrifice us, then that's a better path than letting this be a freaking thing and facilitating it. And another reason I think depopulation is a big scenario right now, because these beings want us in fewer numbers so that we are more controllable.
Right.
They will
Right.
feel more secure. If you're like, I think this is where the whole WEF and all this nonsense is coming from. That's just the
Yeah.
fun. But reality could be much more sickening like this and even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the sad thing. The more you learn, the more you realize that things could be a lot worse. There's there's so much weirdness out there. Um, I was naive. I didn't believe any of this could get this bad. But people, there's evil. There is really some serious evil out there. And,
Yep.
it's beyond what I imagined.
Yep. Bhavin, you go ahead. I will let Joe know.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, what Joe was saying that he now is getting that idea. Maybe this is happening at Area 51. Actually, in fact, in reality, we all know about Area 51, but there is Area 52, there is Area 53, and I think there is also Area 54. And from some of the documentaries I saw, actually a couple of different documentaries from different sources, they do say that I think it was 53 and 52 where the eating actually happens, and a lot of dissections and all that stuff where they're learning about human anatomy. It's like in one of the mountains and stuff basically, but yeah, it is happening in the US under some secret bases. Again, these are not military bases. It's like even higher than military, or even higher than the president's approvals, right? And where they are doing a lot of research and a lot of, I guess, eating of humans. But yeah, they do refer to them as Area 52 and 53, and it's like really highly secured place where it's even hard for humans to go, right? So there are some parts of these areas where humans are not even allowed, right? So unless they're being eaten, basically. So um, stuff like that I've heard, of course, on the documentaries, and it was only one show or one documentary. This was at least on two or more different sources. So that's what I wanted to just basically clear up. So yeah, even if Joe's just getting the idea, this already, I think, has already been spoken of.
Okay. That's a good information. Joe, were you able to hear that?
I heard nothing.
Oh,
Silence.
okay. Oh, so he was talking about there are a couple of documentaries and sources out there which are actually validating it. And I also am aware of a project called Disclosure Project, which seems to be coming from a very credible person, and it's a group of people now, if I believe to be. And they did not exactly say this is what's going on, but they indirectly said that they were basically hinting at it, that this might be the possibility, and we are about to basically uncover the truth, and government agencies will break into these facilities and take over. So that's what but I'm not completely sure. That's why I wanted to ask you guys, so that because with the feed we don't know what information we are getting fed nowadays too.
Right.
It will be so different from me to you.
Right. Yeah, it's sad because I mean, somebody can come on and say, I'm the news anchor. My name is Henry Jordan, and you don't even know if that's true. It's sad. They just have so much screwed up that we don't know, what's up or what's down anymore. And that is on purpose. They want us to be confused. They want to spread confusion.
Right.
So just another of their tactics. And you mentioned reducing the population so they can control us. The globalists have said they want to bring the Earth's population down to 500 million.
Right.
We're at 8 billion. They don't care how they do it. They just want to do it so they can rule the world. And that means they got to kill 7.5 billion people. They don't care. That's fine with them.
They're gonna try, but we are waking up. And I think the time is coming where we are about to go on offense instead of defense.
Right.
I think very close. Within months, if nothing, the offense will start. Like it's already in progress. It's just it has to be declared. Just as Bhavin was saying, a war, the declaration is what basically defines a war.
Yeah. The other thing is, I do believe, like I said, that Trump will be in office. That he'll make peace. He'll bring incredible wealth. He'll secure our border. He'll deport more people than have ever been deported from America ever before. And, he'll do a lot of good things, and America's going to be great. But these people, evil never sleeps. They will devise plans and they will retaliate because we interrupted their plans. They
Oh,
will eventually rule the world.
no, that's what we have to fight against. But yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with you.
we should
Look at
fight
what.
against it, but the Bible told us it was going to happen. So it's going to happen eventually. We just don't know when.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, go
and,
ahead, Bob.
and just to say, there's many cycles of these evil forces, right? So just to put in perspective, right? When Joe refers to as like Bible referring to this evil, those you can call them like a 1,000 year evil, right? And then of course, for example, when the World War II ended, and the Project Paperclip, and then other projects where they got some of the Nazi out, and of course they're now growing in number, and they're doing this their agenda, which now we refer to as Ukraine Russia war, right? So basically, that would be like a 60-year evil cycle. So like there's gonna be many cycles. I mean, there's always there. There's short cycles, big cycles. Kind of like when you talk about flood, right? You say, oh, this is this area has a 100-year flood. This area has a 10-year flood. That just means basically every that interval, you're gonna see a flood. So basically, evil or the cycles that you refer to, there are many cycles, and there are short ones, there are big ones, there are longer ones. Biblical ones are like Joe said, 1,000, 2,000 years long or whatever. Then of course we have cycles even in Hinduism, right? That go into millions of years, right? I mean, you're probably aware of that, Kalki. But World War II would be like a 60-year cycle. Like so, there are cycles of evils from all sorts and sizes. So, for example, Trump comes in, just like Joe said, we fix up things. Yeah, the fixing up things might last another 30, 40 years, right? Until then, they rise up again. Because, people with agendas, evil agendas, they never sleep. But when they get reduced in number, when we kill them off, they reduce in number, then they have to wait a long time, whatever that time is, to reproduce and, convert other people to their ideology, and then, of course, then go for a war. So that's always the case that keeps on circulating in all these different cycles.
Right. But here, so Joe, he agreed with you, but at the same time said, like, look at World War II, which was not that long ago, and the cycle repeats, and now they are in power again, and now they are doing the damage, and eventually we will do the damage, and the cycle repeats. So that's what Bhavin in like short
In a
was trying to
nutshell.
say. But now I think this time around it's gonna be a little bit different, and I will tell you why. Because this, biblically speaking, right, this cycle has repeated many times before,
Yep.
but this time it has gone to the craziness or evil evilness, if that's a word, or I don't know. Like, it has gone way too far on the other side. And this is the moment where events like rupture or Armageddon and stuff like that. Do you know what
Well,
I'm
I,
saying?
I agree, but I say it a different way. I say the pendulum swings both way, and it's swung further left than it ever has before. And it's about to swing further right than it ever has before. But that does mean it's going to swing back. It
No, but
may.
it
Yep,
could be, it could have gone like, a pendulum is inside a clock, right? Let's say
yep,
that.
yep.
Now the pendulum has swung so far on one side that it is about to shatter the glass ceiling that was keeping it inside.
Okay.
And
Right.
either it's gonna get stuck there or it's gonna break. And I think we are getting to that point. Whether the pendulum swings back or not is not
When
something, because that cycle has repeated so many times.
the answer
Right.
to your question, yeah, the answer to the question is when that
And
happens,
it
right?
does get worse every time.
Right.
Yeah. So when that happens, you throw away that clock and you get a new, bigger clock, right? So in other
Right.
words,
Right.
what this means is, in a different way to think about it is, sure. Do you remember what happened? I think 2017 or 18 when Trump created that new program or a new department within defense called the Space Force, right?
Right.
So just to put in perspective, right? We had 4 departments in the military, 4 different branches. The army, people who run on the land, right, fight on the land. Then, of course, you have navy, which is basically people who are above the sea, but basically on the water, but above the water. And then you have the marines, which is basically people in the water, under the water, like submarines, right? And then you have air force, which handles the space. Now you have space force. So the space force, the only and again they didn't say much about it, but if you think just common sense, space force is basically in the space, right, outside of Earth. So basically, think of it this way: when you talk about army or navy or whatever, right, you're defending your territory, your country from another country. Or if it's between cities, you're defending your city from a different city, right? It's just the concept, right? So when you do space force, you are defending your space. In this case would be the Earth from other outside external threats, and in this case would mean from different planets, right? So yes, this is exactly what I was saying. Like, when your small clock breaks, the pendulum swings so high, the clock is broken, you throw it away, you get a bigger clock. The bigger clock here would be, now we're going to be dealing with, or we're moving into the space where we're not only fighting within the Earth, we're gonna be fighting forces outside of the Earth. Basically, this is where the scientists were saying, "Hey, is there any life out there?" Well, we know there has always been life. I mean, I always knew there was life. People didn't admit it, but now they're gonna say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna admit it. There always has been life. We've been visited by aliens for millions of years. They've always been there. There's good ones, there are bad ones. There's all the different type ones, and of course, we're gonna be defending. Just like you have allies, you would have enemies. Yeah, we're gonna make allies with other planets where they're willing to work with us, and then we're gonna have enemies who are trying to basically, kill you, right, or take over your planet, or whatever the case may be, right? You're gonna be defending. So that's what the Space Force technically is, the fifth branch of, at least for our country. But it's not. It's no longer gonna be, Space Force for every country. It's gonna be Space Force where every country will work together. It's kind of like ISS, right? The International Space Station, which belongs to everybody, right? When you go to different planet, you're gonna work together. Like Chinese astronaut gets on it, Russian gets on it, American gets on it. They're not talking about the wars that's happening on the planet. No. Now, when you're looking at external forces, you all unite. Put your differences aside, you unite. So the Space Force, that's the next frontier. That's the new big clock, and the pendulum keeps swinging until you get to the bigger clock, galactics and things like that. But right now it's going to be just basically in the neighborhood of our small part of the galaxy, right?
Right. So let me tell Joe about it. So Joe, Bhavin was just talking about Space Force, and he's saying that will be the bigger clock where we will be fighting intergalactic fights, not just fighting among us. So um, I wanted to add something to that because another theory slash, I guess at this point it's gonna be disclosure very soon. They already put a timeline on it, and that is 2027.
Right.
So
What's funny, I've talked about Kim Clement before, the modern day prophet who prophesied that Trump would serve 2 terms, that he would build a wall, secure the border, bring peace, bring incredible wealth, and many other things. He talked about Ukraine and Russia and many other things.
mhm.
And I brought this up for a reason. What did you just tell me?
And we will have our own aliens.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know where I was going. You said something
Tell them Space Force.
that Kim said, and now I don't remember what it was. It was the last thing you said.
Space Force, and we will be having intergalactic fights through
You
space.
said something right after that.
Then
But
I said they put a
yeah.
clock on it, and that is 2027 when the disclosure will happen.
2007 or 27.
Right.
That's a date that that Kim mentioned. He did not specify what was going to happen, but he said something horrible basically is going to happen in 2027. So it's interesting that you mentioned that date.
So now another question. Okay, This is very interesting. So now the point comes to the people, those who call us cuckoo,
Yeah.
conspiracy theorists, and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
Where are you? Why are you not challenging us? And why are you
You know, that's really funny. We invite them on and they just don't come.
right? Like
Don't show up.
it cannot be a coincidence that three people and even more I talked to, we all starting to believe this, and I'm open to anything. I want to hear your point, but
Now, I also want to say one more thing.
you know,
Another idea, right? For example, again, I haven't heard about the
Yeah, it's
2027. What?
it's funny. I
so
mean, we have had them on.
Joe Bhavin is speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
no, no worries. You cannot hear him. So yeah, go ahead, Bhavin.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, I haven't heard about this 2027, but the idea, like what people should think, right? Because I always connect dots. Here's one more dot they can connect. Does Elon Musk know something that we don't know, right? Maybe he knows this, maybe he doesn't. Is that why? And again, it's a question. I'm just putting a question out there. I don't have the answer, but maybe is that why he's saying, hey, we need to get to colonize another planet ASAP, right? So again, I don't know anything about 2027, but imagine that maybe if something bad is going to happen to the earth or whatever the case may be, is he trying to say, hey, if we split up into two or three different planets, even now, as soon as possible, we could, then at least one of those parts would survive as a race. And again, I have nothing on this. It's just an idea, just do something to think about. It's just an open question. Go ahead, I'm done.
Right, agree. And I will tell Joe. So Joe Bhavin is saying that if you look at Elon Musk has been saying this forever that we have to colonize Mars. Maybe he knows about 2027 agenda and he's trying to just prepare us so that we survive, even
Mhm.
if that's a possibility. That dude is a warrior. I
Yeah.
don't care what people say about him. I have utmost respect for his intellect and how cool he is. And he is not greedy like rest of the world. And he's one of the richest by doing the
And
right thing. So that was always an option for all these assholes.
right. He went down to the border to see what's going on.
Right.
You know, I mean, how many people do that? Biden hasn't done it.
Okay,
Or
no, but like none of the people responsible to be able to make any change are doing it. They are just whining. Like, look at how much New York is crying while they were supporting for all these years that, hey,
yeah.
let the immigrants come. We have to be the country for everybody. But now it's happening to them. And it's like, our city is getting flooded. Please save us. We cannot take it.
We
What
said the
the
country for everyone, not the state for everyone, not
Right.
the city for everyone.
It's just not.
It's,
So, okay, I think we are about to hit our 1 hour mark. So, closing remarks, Bhavin, you go ahead first.
I don't know what to say. We talked about a lot of stuff today. So again, just always be open to questioning things. You don't always have to take up any answer and just believe in it, because I'm saying this because Tolkien had a little confusion in the beginning, right? Where you might get information and you go crazy about it. You don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to process it. Don't let that stop your flow of thinking, because you're gonna get information. Sometimes it's very disturbing. Sometimes it won't let you sleep. Sometimes it's gonna make you go really crazy, where you think like, "What the hell you're doing on this planet, right? What is this life about?" So you're always there's information out there that you might get, which is very, very, very deadly. You may not believe it, which is what the Democrats are going through, because they don't believe any questioning that comes from the left side, and they always go like, "Oh, those are loonies." No, they're not loonies. They're free thinkers. It's called free thinking, right? You're just questioning it, and then you go about the process of, hypothesis, looking at facts, looking at things, and putting some common sense into it, right? Doing all of these things where everybody with a brain should be doing this. That's what the God is actually wanting you to do. So do that process before you call anybody crazy or whatnot. But nonetheless, question everything, listen to everything. If there's information that comes in that you cannot handle, just put it aside. Don't go crazy behind it. Don't flip out behind it. Don't get depressed behind it, because sometimes things are out of your hands. So again, just put it aside. Later on, it's going to be useful. when you're putting a lot of clues together, right? And always think ahead, right? Always think that next 10 steps ahead, like a chess game, and things will make more sense because when you do that, uh, when information pops in that you didn't know, but you already thought about 10 steps ahead, it would make sense and you're not going to go crazy about it because you were already expecting something like that as part of your 10 steps ahead. So always question, always listen to everything, always vet the information, always process the information, and do the due diligence that the God has allowed you to do with your brain. And that's all I'm going to say as a closing remark.
Wonderfully said. And I don't know how could anybody call a person like you. I don't know if somebody did, but I think a lot of people call us conspiracy theorist or cuckoo. But how? Look to the reasoning. This is what anybody's supposed to be doing, including scientists. And especially when you're getting paid to do the thinking. But no, everything is flawed at this point, and we cannot trust nobody, not even trust each other. Joe, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's sad how much they've twisted the truth and abused their privilege. The left owns the news outlets, and I put news in quotes there. The entertainment industry, the social networks, um, they control the narrative. They can control the information, and they have just abused uh, that privilege to no end. It's just basically destroyed people's faith in anything, and they own the education system, and so they've indoctrinated enough people to not have a clue what reality is. Even most liberal ideas are basically fantasy. They make stuff up, state it as if it's fact, and then tell you the science is settled, and you're just supposed to agree with it. And that's reality. And anybody that says anything else is a conspiracy theorist. And that's really sad. But as bad as things are, I think it's like we've talked about, it's going to swing the other way and get that good, which is, it's going to be better than ever. Trump always said the best is yet to come. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. We're on our way to a time that we never thought possible. We're going to have more wealth than we ever thought possible. Things are going to be really, really good. But I do temper that with there's going to be a time that follows that isn't so good. And I don't know how long it lasts. Maybe it lasts a long time. Maybe we have this great thing going on for a long time. But sooner or later, the other side will be back. And we've already seen, you know, we've had the wool, pulled over our eyes, and we've had it pulled back so we can see again. And it's amazing, what we've seen. But we didn't see everything. There's a lot more back there, and I think the evil that's coming is going to be worse than what we've seen so far. But we should enjoy the time we have, and you know, use our time wisely to prepare for the bad times.
Mm,
I think that's the best advice I can give.
thank you for that, Joe. Thank you so much. You definitely bring a very comforting, positive tone to us. And with this, heed my words, people. Me, Joe, Bhavin, anybody you think is crazy. And, we are not against anybody. I don't think any of us have that in our heart. And we are not worried about winning so that we can put anybody down. I, as have always said, I'm a Democrat in heart, by policy, and I believe in the core of the Republican Party. And beyond that, my biggest concern is I have seen a little bit of Russia from far, but still, and of China. And I know they are great in their own senses, but for me and what I want, I believe in the core of America. I believe in the core of freedom to choose, to have a life, to enjoy things, and to go beyond the limits that only happens in America. I come from a country called India, which was supposed to be like this, which was supposed to be better than America, but it never did. It failed. And our culture is far much more superior in every sense. And look what my country did to itself. Because when you're divided, when you're oppressed, this is the kind of shit that happens. And that's what I don't want for America. And there is a better way. We have to go back to what this country used to be, what people like Elon Musk and JFK and Trump are trying to do, because they believe in this country. They do not hate it. They do not hate what it they hate what it has become. And beyond that, okay, it your core comes from Native Americans, and you have to believe in that culture. We have completely destroyed that culture. We have to go back to that core, because that's what America was built on. All the original ideas came from that culture, and then America enhanced it and made it so much better. We have been fighting these wars forever, and the time has come to stop fighting among us. Weed out this evil and become something more prosperous, more happy, more satisfied. This is not what we want to live as. This is ridiculous. And why we are letting this happen to us does
More
not
we the people and less we the government.
exactly, exactly. This is where we have to make a stand and stand together. If you are for Black Lives Matters, if you are for the police, if you are for Native Americans, if you are for all the minorities, then you have to come together instead of fighting among each other, and stop letting these people divide us. And for the people, those who are doing this to us, there is a better way, and you are fucking cowards. And since you're against us, go fuck yourself and let us fucking peace. I want to thank you, Joseph. I want to thank you, Pavin. This is your Captain Kalki, Rebels United Chapter 7. I hope you bring some joy to your sad, sad life, and I hope you stay happy. Peace.